sustainability as well. I think there's a lot more to be done within the category on utilizing the most innovative and sustainable materials. Like we're still not perfect either, so for us, it's about continuing to kind of push that forward. So, yeah, with all of this, there's a huge amount of investment and a lot of challenges, and there's not necessarily an easy path forward. But we believe that these things are important to us, our DNA, and what it is that we stand for as a brand.
I'm Eric Fulweiler, and this is Scratch, bringing you marketing lessons from the leading brands and brains rewriting the rulebook from scratch for the world of today.
Hey everyone, my guest today is Will Pearson from Ocean Bottle, who described themselves as the world's most needed reusable water bottle. I'm a big fan of this brand and this business. I'm actually a customer right now. Here's my Ocean Bottle right here. A very authentic and purpose-led brand. They have actually already funded the collection of over 1 billion plastic bottles from the ocean. Basically, every water bottle that you buy funds additional collection of plastic bottles from the ocean. And it was fascinating to kind of get under the hood with Will, now 6 years in, having sold 1 million water bottles and a team of 40. We have a big conversation about being a purpose-led brand, and there's some great advice for folks that are either in purpose-oriented or purpose-led businesses or see an opportunity for their brands to become more purpose-led as long as it's authentic. That's, of course, a big part of his advice. But we also have a really interesting conversation about how you kind of get to the next level. What are those inflection points as you're scaling a challenger brand, going from 0 to 1 million bottles sold, from 0 to 40 people, and then also what's actually going to come next, and some of his perspective around what's going on within the industry around greenwashing, green hushing. Really interesting conversation, really great brand. Would definitely recommend that you check it out, and I really hope you enjoy my conversation with Will Pearson of Ocean Bottle. Will, thanks so much for making the time.
Hey, Eric, great to be on the show.
Where are you calling in from? I know you've been traveling a lot. There's a lot going on in the world of Ocean Bottle these days, but where do we find you today?
Yeah, luckily on a bit of event hiatus, things have quietened down a little bit. So I'm actually out in the countryside, yeah, on the Cotswolds. I think it's the furthest point from the ocean in the UK, which is kind of crazy being and living here. But yeah, hoping to get a bit closer sometime soon.
That's awesome. Pretty ironic. So, Will, we've had a few chats. We got introduced through a mutual connection a few months ago. Big fan of what you're doing with the brand and business, and a customer here as well. For those who are listening, I just held up my pretty sweet 1 liter. I like the size. I always struggle to find big American size water bottles over here. And you obviously came to one of our CMO founder roundtable dinners, so have gotten to know a little bit about you and the business and the brand, and I'm really excited to share that with our audience today. Before we get into the conversation, there's an icebreaker question that we ask every guest, which is, can you tell us about a challenger brand you're particularly passionate about right now and why?
I mean, it's always a tough one because there's too many good ones to choose from, right, Eric? But I'm gonna go with Freaks of Nature. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a US brand. They make reef-safe sunscreen from sort of bio-based materials. They just have a wicked sort of product positioning and brand positioning. And I think they're doing sustainability in a really cool way. They've co-founded the company with Kelly Slater, the world champion surfer, and it's just an awesome brand doing awesome things.
Love it. We'll have to check them out and potentially get them on the podcast as well. All right. So for people who may not have heard of Ocean Bottle yet, can you give us an overview of the business right now?
Yeah, for sure. So at Ocean Bottle, we believe that each of our products should be a vehicle for impact. And yeah, we really design our products. So this is the Ocean Bottle right here, to do much more than just hold water. For every product that we sell, we fund collection equivalent to 1,000 plastic bottles in weight, which is 25 pounds of plastic if you're in the States, 11.4 kilos of plastic if you're elsewhere in Europe. And yeah, we do that by investing in plastic collection projects all around the world. We have projects that we support in India, Indonesia, the Philippines, Kenya, Egypt, Brazil, soon to launch in Guatemala. And yeah, for us, it's really about enabling individuals to kind of be part of making a global impact. And I'm pleased to say that today we've collected over 20 million kilos of plastic, which is equivalent to 2 billion plastic bottles in weight.
Amazing. So, obviously, purpose is at the core of who you are as an individual, but also who Ocean Bottle is as a business and a brand. And of course, now having done, I think, a little over 100, many of them, as you can imagine, have been with challenger brands that are very purpose-driven and purpose-oriented. And it's kind of interesting to kind of see in our little bubble of the marketing world how conversations around purpose-led brands have evolved over the last, let's say, 5 years, right? And I'm always curious to ask and understand, and I know our audience would be as well, that balance. And obviously, I'm overgeneralizing between purpose and profit because sometimes they are not directly aligned. But I know some of how you've thought about your business and your brand, it actually does align how you make money to how you can do good in the world. So if you think about that balance of purpose and profit, both for Ocean Bottle and other marketers who are listening and considering this as part of their own business, what advice would you share about how to approach that kind of dichotomy sometimes?
Yeah, and well, firstly, congrats on 100 episodes. And yeah, I mean, this is a question we get asked a lot. How we balance this, from the beginning and throughout our journey. So we really kind of embedded the purpose element right at the core at the beginning. We wanted to make the impact non-negotiable for our customers, so they can select the level of plastic they wanted to fund the collection of. So it kind of became like an entry ticket to get the product, and it meant that there wasn't really a choice around it. This has been tough at times. I mean, the cost of collection is effectively equivalent to the cost of making the product itself, and when you try to compete in a quite a crowded category, you have to be able to deliver a price that's close to the competition. So it's made it challenging at times, but it's something we've stuck true to, and I think ultimately it's helped us attract much better talent, amazing brand partnerships and collaborations, and I mean it's really the core of the community and why people get our products in the first place.
Who would you consider your main competition? Like I go back, was it like 7 or 8 years ago with kind of the Chili's water bottle that I think in terms of like the metal, kind of something that looked different. I remember people talking about that. You've obviously got Stanley, you've got Yeti, who actually was going to be on the podcast this week, but had to reschedule to September. How do you think about kind of the competitive landscape for water bottles?
Yeah, I mean, the water bottle category itself is a bit like the footwear category now, right? There's a million types of sneakers to choose between. But I do think we see ourselves as slightly different to the category, and kind of slightly outside of the category. Our long-term ambition and dream is to really build the Patagonia for the ocean. Um, and so for us, we're all about, having products that do good and give back and go beyond. So really, we're for those customers who care a bit more. We call them the Change Collective. And we're for those people who want a bit more than just a water bottle. I mean, these products are now an extension of people's beliefs, their values. So we really see it as an essential accessory that people carry around and that says something about them.
Do you think much about the competitive set?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't spend much time thinking about the competition.
Yeah.
They're
That's
doing their
kind of
thing.
that's kind of what I was thinking based on how you answered that question. And it's so interesting, of course, each interview on its own, but of course, at this point, kind of pattern recognition and what are the trends and things like that. And we've done some kind of content around the key takeaways. But one of the things that I think is really unique about this podcast and what I get a chance to do is kind of the contrast between talking to so many founders or CMOs of challenger brands versus CMOs of big incumbent brands. And I do think that that is one of the big differences is, I'm not sure I can think of a single founder at a challenger brand at the stage that you're at that probably wouldn't have the same answer, where it's like, no, of course they're out there and like, we're aware and people talk to us about them, but like really we're just focused on the customer and what their needs are, how we can fulfill them. I thought that was going to be your answer, and I thought it was just kind of interesting to call out and highlight to the audience if that's the case.
Cool. Well, hopefully, yeah, we're not completely on the wrong track then.
It doesn't seem like it with how the business has grown. So when it comes to being a purpose-led brand, Do you think about kind of principles around this, practices that you try to keep? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is I would imagine, and again, this is the case with a lot of kind of still founder-led challenger brands, it just kind of, it is what it is. Like, it is who you are. You don't necessarily need to codify it. But of course, the purpose of doing interviews like this is to try to extract the learnings and share them with people so that they can hopefully apply them within their own business. So, are there kind of principles or practices about being an effective and successful purpose-led brand that you can share?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, every company's different and everyone, there's no fixed recipe to this, I think, and people have their different approaches. But, I always like to talk about what's worked for us and how you can reapply that in different contexts. We do meet some early stage founders who've been, partially inspired by what we're doing, and that's amazing to me, is kind of how we can, continue to inspire more companies like this. So I think for us, it's number one is getting clear on the challenge that you're trying to fix. You know, Ideally in this future world, we envisage a world where businesses that don't do good for people and planet will become obsolete. Um, and so, going out there, tackling a global challenge with your community is a great way of ensuring that you're doing that. So that for me is number one. And then from there, it's really making sure that everything that you do and everything that you say kind of ladders back to that challenge and what you're trying to do in the world. And that can be kind of quite a loose thread or quite a tight thread, I think, back to that.
Hey everyone, just another quick interruption. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not already part of our AMP community on WhatsApp, would love for you to get involved. So AMP is a community that we started at the beginning of the business, really, just to kind of bring together some of the interesting people that we were talking to, the marketers that we were coming across, many of whom have been on this show as well. And so now AMP is about 300 senior marketers from around the world, from various categories, different stages, challengers, incumbents. And it's really a place where people can share questions, can share resources, can make new connections, can use folks as sounding boards. And for those that are in it, it is a very vibrant community. It's really taken on a life of its own, which is amazing. So if you're listening to this and you want to get involved, please go to our website, weareRival.com. There you can find the application form or reach out to me or someone at Rival directly. Thanks so much. So you mentioned that you've had a couple conversations with similar businesses or even founders that you've inspired. And I know that you're doing something around building a community or a coalition of leading B Corp brands. Of course, we as Rival are a B Corp brand, but it was interesting in our prep call kind of talking about what B Corp means and maybe the next evolution of that, or kind of what does it mean to be a leading B Corp brand? Because I feel like it has been very widely distributed, let's say, at this point. So what are you doing around B Corp and other brands that are similarly committed to being purpose-led in the way that you are?
Yeah, well, basically you've kind of nailed it. But there's some amazing companies, brand solutions out there who are really sort of shifting the dial and doing incredible things. So with B Plus, which is an initiative that we're launching, the ambition really is to kind of unite the world's most ambitious brands and solutions on climate and nature. And the goal is really then to bring them together with the leaders of the world's largest companies, as we believe that through collaboration between those two groups and kind of creating a bridge there between two groups that really don't talk very much, we can both raise ambition, but we can also help accelerate action. And so I think, B Corp is an incredible movement. We're a B Corp as well. But there are now these companies who are kind of raising the bar even further
Yeah.
in terms of being a net positive business. And that's kind of what B Plus is all about, is like showcasing those extreme and amazing examples.
So one, if there's anybody listening that is interested in B Plus and what you're doing, would love for you to share kind of where they can find out more. But two, more broadly, before we move into the next chapter of the conversation and talk a little bit about how marketing has changed over the 6 years at Ocean Bottle, what would kind of be your final advice to marketers listening, particularly those who, maybe some of them luckily find themselves in a business like yours where it's still very much founder-led, it's still very much purpose kind of at the core of who they are. But, let's be honest, many of them kind of might be at businesses where as the marketer, you kind of have to help nudge or pull the executive team or people internally in that direction. So what advice would you have around kind of how to help, I guess, evolve businesses to be more purpose-led if they're not that already?
Yeah, cool. It's a great question. And just to your point on B plus as well, if you're interested in getting involved, or if you want to nominate a founder from an incredible company that you know of, please drop me a DM on LinkedIn. And yeah, to this question, it's something that we've definitely thought about is sort of how do you retrofit purpose within a business and do that authentically? It's quite a difficult challenge. And so I think it's really, there isn't much good in kind of just slapping your newfound purpose on top. I think you have to really do an exercise where you go back to the DNA of the company and kind of build out your sustainability strategy from there. So it really aligns with, what it is you're about, what it is you're doing, and who you're for. So an example would be, Nike. How would they go about it? Well, they're all about just doing it. It could be about kind of putting one foot in front of the other, leading with progress over perfection and kind of leading with action. And I think it's through those finding those red threads and kind of linking it back to what you're about that you can, do that authentically. Because that is ultimately important.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a saying that's brand strategy, whether it's kind of purpose oriented or not, is more of an exercise in excavation versus construction. It's not coming in and kind of building something new. It's actually trying to get to the core of who you are.
Yeah,
That's
well,
kind of
we just
the
had
build output.
we had a brand refresh exercise recently. It's taken us, I think, gosh, probably about 9 months to go through. And the majority of it was kind of holding up a mirror to ourselves
Yeah.
and looking at, who we are and what we're trying to
Sometimes
do.
it feels like group therapy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm curious,
Quite
what
cathartic.
was kind of the impetus for deciding that you needed to do that? And this is probably actually a good segue into the next part of the conversation of kind of like what changes as you grow as a challenger brand in the marketing front. But maybe let's start there. Like, what happened where you were like, or somebody else told you, hey, we need to look at repositioning, brand refresh?
Yeah, so I mean, ever since the beginning of starting the company, I've been very, very passionate about building brand. And really just, yeah, it's fundamentally the core thing that you can do, right, in terms of longevity as a business, and ensuring that we're kind of here for generations to come. And also we're a product that is premium. It commands a premium price point because of the cost of impact and the cost of making the product. So it's important that we can build brand just through that lens alone. And so I think we've been kind of cracking along, scaling, growing, building, going through all the various challenges of the startup roller coaster. And I think we just realized that our brand had become a little bit Frankenstein. We kind of added a few limbs here and there, and there wasn't that kind of consistency and clarity and kind of creative excellence across the brand that we needed to come back to. So yeah, that really made the case for doing that, and it was such a fun process. And like we're now rolling it out across different touch points and channels.
Love it. Can't wait to see. Okay, so early stage marketing versus current stage marketing. So it's been 6 years at Ocean Bottle, and you've gone from zero to, maybe you can give us a couple kind of stats or explain the size that you're at now. I know you gave out a couple about kind of like the impact on bottles collected and things like that, but team size, revenue, customers, I don't know, something to kind of give people a sense of where you're at. And then let's get into what are the biggest things that have changed on the marketing roadmap in that time.
Cool. Well, a lot has changed. I'll start right there. I think to begin with, marketing is quite tough in my eyes because it is magic and science. It is kind of objective and subjective at the same time. And so there isn't always a straightforward answer, especially with, the creative elements to it. And so we actually set out as a direct to consumer brand because that was our ambition. We wanted these customer relationships. We wanted to build this kind of incredible consumer brand and impact community. And I think we quite quickly realized that the economics on that would be really, really tough. And so we kind of pivoted. And then we ultimately really scaled through partnerships. So, finding amazing partners where we could kind of bring our products and our mission to their audience and do that in a tailored and bespoke way. I mean, the products themselves are kind of, they're on an in-hand advertising billboard and they're fully customizable. So it kind of allows us to work with loads of different brands. So we've collaborated with the North Face, where we launched across all of their stores across Europe, through to loads of other exciting collabs. And that has really helped scale us, and it's ultimately allowed us also to kind of reinvest in that consumer brand and that long-term ambition as a company.
Amazing. And what does marketing look like now? Like, is there a team? How big is the team? You mentioned you're working with a partner on the brand strategy and positioning. What does kind of the partner landscape look like? What's the landscape for marketing right now in terms of resources and team?
Yeah, well, we're pretty lean and mean. I would say we've got an amazing head of marketing, Millie. Some incredible people on the team. We've got a head of growth, Donny. Um, and yeah, we kind of we split it into those two verticals like any kind of modern brand probably would. And yeah, we've probably got a team of, I think we're about 6 people within marketing. On the whole, we're about 40. And yeah, we're expecting to do about 1 million bottles this year in
Amazing.
terms of
Yeah.
like
So really getting to
units.
the next level. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Congrats. One of the things I thought was interesting is that your go-to-market has included a B2B channel as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and also how that came about, how you identified that as an opportunity?
Well, so yeah, we did a kind of classic launch, right? We did a crowdfund product launch onto Indiegogo Kickstarter, which is probably one of the most stressful things that you can do as a founder, because like you're putting all of your eggs in that basket as a launch moment. And I think we said to ourselves, if we can't sell 5,000 bottles, which was basically like the minimum order to kick off production, we were just gonna, wrap up the whole thing. And yeah, we hit that threshold. But it was through that launch that we actually had a few inbound inquiries from different brands and companies. So one was we had Ed Sheeran's tour. So we actually did bottles for his music tour. The bottles almost didn't make it. Like we were sending out the products from the warehouse at the time. It was a nightmare. Yeah, sent products to the wrong clients. I mean, it was just crazy. And then, but we also had a Danish bank who got in touch and they said they wanted 500 bottles for all of their kind of clients and internal team. And they actually paid for the products a year before we even shipped and delivered them. So like we literally had a 3D render of the product and they were happy to pay for them up front because they really believed in the mission and what we were doing. And at that point, we probably should have realized this to be a really, solid growth channel for us to scale the mission and what we're doing.
Yeah, pretty great from a cash flow perspective too.
Definitely.
Um, the question is not in the brief, and so if you don't have a good answer or don't want to get into it, it's totally fine, and we can clip all this out. But I'm curious, thinking back on the last 6 years, are there things that you would do differently, knowing where you are now on the marketing front? Like things you would have done sooner or later, things you would have not done at all, things that you think you should have done? Any kind of like reflective learnings or lessons that you can share?
Marketing is one of those places where we've probably learned the most. Learning about our audience, learning about our products, our brand positioning, just so much learning and failure. And I think back to some of the fun stunts that we did as well. Like we did one around environmental confessions because our belief actually as a brand is, around progress, not perfection. And the fact that, not all of our customers, let alone the team, are perfect. So, let's embrace that. Let's kind of talk about our failures and move forward. Through to an activation that we did at a festival, which was probably the most fun activation that we've ever done. But it was also probably the worst return on investment activation we've ever done as well. Still would do it because it was epic. But yeah, I think some of the biggest things we've learned were we kind of shaped the marketing team around direct to consumer, I think it would have been great for us to make sure that we had more capability within our B2B marketing and kind of, but still doing it through a consumer lens, because at the end of the day, the
Yep.
decision maker of a company or a brand is still an individual. So I think I wish that we'd probably invested in that a little bit more early on, and I wish that we just continued to really invest in community, especially in kind of brand development and video as well. I think would have been great because we're now kind of tiny bit on the back foot there,
Mhm.
and yeah, we need to accelerate that.
Great. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Um, so when we talk about the next stage, so 40 people, 6 years in, 1 million bottles, obviously you want to continue to build and grow this thing. What are some of the things that are most important to getting Ocean Bottle to the next level? And how do you think about, you have a very kind of focused promise and product at this point. Is that something that you think that needs to widen? Or how else are you thinking about what needs to change if you want to go from 1 million bottles to 10 million bottles or whatever the ambition is?
I think for a little while, we probably thought that we needed to widen it, and actually, if you widen too far, too far too fast, you end up kind of diluting and doing everything averagely. So I think there is a real impetus in kind of staying focused on your core. And you look at brands like Nike and Patagonia. Patagonia were doing climbing equipment for 30 years before they kind of broaden beyond that. So I think there is a case for us to, really focus on that hydration experience, not just bottles, but kind of that hydration experience. Ultimately, everyone drinks water. You're made up of almost 80% water, and everyone now needs a reusable bottle. So, we think that there's lots of headroom still within the category, to expand, especially as kind of conscious consumerism grows and people want more than just a water bottle.
So you've taken a very focused approach to differentiating on the product side, not just on the brand side, right? Because it would have been easy to just kind of take a water bottle, take a Chili's like water bottle, and just say that it's purpose led and talk about, collecting the plastic bottles and everything that the brand is all about. But there's true differentiation in the way that you've developed the product as well. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so we knew right at the start, we kind of had a debate like, does the world need another water bottle? Probably not. But then actually, if we're going to really succeed in our mission, we need a product that is at the top of the category, if not beyond. So we made a conscious decision to really invest in product innovation. It's something that we still really, get behind and still do. And for us, that is, three things. One is aesthetics. Like we really lean into aesthetics. I think it's important that we have products that people love and want to bring with them every single day. Like we really obsess over like the usage of our products. Two is functionality. So we try and kind of go beyond and push the envelope on functionality. We now have 9 different ways to save the ocean. We've got, different products. You've got the big one. I've got the OG original, which is fine for UK summer, maybe not further south. Um, and yeah, and then finally sustainability as well. I think there's a lot more to be done within the category on utilizing the most innovative and sustainable materials. Like we're still not perfect either, so for us, it's about continuing to kind of push that forward. So yeah, with all of this, there's a huge amount of investment and a lot of challenges, and there's not necessarily an easy path forward. But we believe that these things are important to us, our DNA, and what it is that we stand for as a brand.
Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly jump in and ask a question that I'm sure all of you have thought of. What does the future of the CMO role actually look like? Is it evolving? Is it going extinct? Like a lot of businesses seem to think it is. We have put out our very first documentary as Rival titled The Future of the CMO. You can check it out via the link in the show notes below. We have interviewed some of the biggest and brightest minds in the marketing industry to understand what the future of this role actually looks like. Would love for you to check it out. Would love to hear what you think. Link in the show notes below. I'd love to understand a little bit more about how innovation happens at Ocean Bottle. I've talked to a lot of founders and CMOs who are I come up with ideas or somebody comes up with ideas and then we just go do them. I've talked to a lot of founders and CMOs we are constantly talking to customers, looking at the data, and we draw insights from there. Some that are like, we have a monthly meeting where everybody brings ideas and then we test them and figure out what we want to do. And as you can imagine, everything in between. What is kind of the process or the culture around innovation at Ocean Bottle, both for the product development that you've done, but also for how the brand and the marketing is evolving?
Yeah, I mean, our product innovation or just like general innovation strategy is I could say probably a little bit scattergun, and it honestly varies from time to time. I think if someone has a great idea and initiative that they want to test and push forward, we generally make space and allow for that, as long as the core stuff can happen. And so we have used the framework called Core and Explore. So 80% is kind of core, and then you allow for that 20% of time on explore. Um, but yeah, ideas can come at the craziest moments. Like you might be faced with a particular challenge, and you come up with a solution there and then, or it's like we've got stuff in the ideas bank, and we roll those out over time.
Cool. Yeah, the core, I haven't heard that explicitly, core and explore, but one of the ones that comes up a lot is like the 70-20-10 framework.
Mm.
And actually, it's interesting. We did an episode a little while back of kind of the key lessons from, I forget how many episodes it was at that point, and also the previous podcast that I did in the fintech space. And actually, the biggest one that I took out of is that almost everybody I talked to had some type of framework for innovation. Core and explore, 70-20-10, weekly meeting. But there was some specific and intentional way that the founders and CMOs that I've talked to make sure that innovation is a priority and has kind of consistent time and investment put towards it. Because it's one of those things that's never going to be urgent, but it really is like constant innovation to deliver on customers' needs is ultimately how any business is going to grow.
Totally.
So, Will, before I let you go, you up for a lightning round questions?
I'm up for lightning round. Let's do it.
All right. First, if your brand was a pizza, what type of pizza would it be?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I like a lot of different types of pizzas on a personal level. But I think if Ocean Bottle was a pizza, it would be a classic margarita. You know, one of those pizzas which kind of emphasizes that the simple ways are often the best, but made with kind of like the best ingredients. So the Italian buffalo mozzarella, the fresh tomatoes and basil, a bit of hand-stretched sourdough, a drizzle of olive oil. And yeah, it's kind of just that proving that the less is more. But it's also like it's just one pizza, right? So we're focused on one challenge, we do it in one way, and we just serve margarita every day.
Going deep there. I love it. But there's no seafood on it? No, like
There's no
anchovies or
seafood on it.
something?
No,
All right.
we're protecting the ocean. No seafood allowed.
Fair enough. All right. Next, what is the best marketing campaign that you've seen recently?
So I'm gonna pick two if I'm allowed.
Yep.
If you'll grant me permission. So one is Dash Water. They did a really cool stunty campaign, kind of taking the mick with Coca-Cola, and yeah, they put a kind of dash can over a Coke can, and they were like, find a drink you can feel good about. Really kind of like hammering home the ingredients and that this soft drink is actually good for you versus the competition. So I thought that was really cool. I thought it was quite bold. It was on like a huge billboard, I think in London. I liked it. And then the other one, which was a bit more of a digital viral stunt that I'm sure a lot of people in the marketing world have seen, probably everyone, was the Rest in Peace duo stunts. Where Duolingo, killed off their main character, and then kind of community love and support was sort of pouring in with obituaries and all sorts of stuff. How are they going to revive Duo? And I just thought it was quite a fun thing. They've created this kind of digital animation that's like the core of their product, and then they just killed it off. So I quite like that one.
Yeah, that was a great one. They're crushing it. All right, next, what is your biggest pet peeve in marketing?
So my biggest pet peeve, I'm afraid to say it's got to be sustainability related. And I think for me, it's where brands, choose to activate on Earth Day, World Ocean Day, and then there's just radio silence in between. Yeah, I think greenwashing and green hushing are both challenges. So, greenwashing is a huge challenge in terms of brands making claims that they can't substantiate. Green hushing is equally a challenge. Brands no longer talking about it and kind of shying away from it. And so, yeah, I believe with sustainability, you have to find that authentic thing that's true to your DNA and then consistently sharpen the space. Um, and kind of lead with action. I think if you lead with action, then you can talk about what you're doing rather than the other way around.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
So I used to kind of associate my own myself with the company. Like I couldn't really distinguish between like my own identity and the company basically. And so actually learning to kind of delineate between, what happens to the company and who I am as a person has been really powerful because it means you can look more critically at things. You're not so like broken and beaten down when something bad happens. And I think the ways in which I've been able to do that, I took a sabbatical, which was amazing, gave me a lot of perspective. But then also just trying to stay fit and active and meditate when I can.
And lastly, what's the biggest missed opportunity in marketing right now?
Well, I think we've seen, a huge kind of not necessarily backlash on sort of paid and performance marketing, but I think people are really understanding that they need to invest in future demand. Um, and they can't just like hard sell their product the whole time. So it is that kind of I can't remember who did the quote, but it's sort of a farming quote. You can't just keep harvesting the same field. You need to sow those seeds for the future. So I think that's the biggest missed opportunity, and I think we're going to see more and more brands adopt that approach.
Totally agree. All right. Well, it's been a great conversation. Big fan of you all and a very happy customer and advocate of what you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Eric, thanks so much for having me on. It's been awesome.
Talk soon.
Chat soon.
Scratch is a production of Rival. We are a growth consultancy that builds challenger brands, strategies, and capabilities to disrupt categories. If you want to learn more about us, check out wearerival.com. If you want to connect with me, email me at eric@wearerival.com or find me on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, share with anyone you think might enjoy it, and leave us a review. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.